Well, it's actually a fairly decent day today, so I thought I'd take my flywheel off. Um, you can see the kind of grief that uh, the car gets in this weather over here. It's interesting that all these I cleaned up only 6 months ago. Well, no, probably a year, and look, they're already rusty. So, and I don't know if you remember the shots, well you won't, but there's some shots that I did where I'd painted this flywheel and everything like that, only in a matte black, but I'm going to paint it in a stuff called Hammerite and see if that's any better, because already that's going rusty too. And also my lovely heat shields that I made the heat shields, and I used the old fasteners, which I didn't make in stainless steel, and look, you can see the brackets, which I painted again, have already gone rusty. And that's how bad the weather is in this country. So anyway, I'm going to remove the flywheel. So I put a bar on there, which is now wedged against the suspension, and then the other side I shall undo. So here we go. Hold the socket nice and flat against the face. Don't come at it like an angle like that, or make sure when you're undoing it, because you're putting a lot of torque through it, make sure it's nice and flat on the face, because if you round these off, you're going to have to find another way of getting them off. It would be difficult. It would be a bit of a nightmare if you rounded them off. There are tricks, but to getting them off, but you don't really want to be going there. So you just do that. Just loose them all off, and okay, so the last one's coming out now. I have marked the flywheel up there against the case. I've only done that because I'm not sure if these holes are eccentric or not. In other words, can the flywheel go on in the wrong orientation? So just in case, I've marked it, so I know what orientation it goes back on. Incidentally, the timing mark is up here. I'm going to clean all that up. I'm going to paint it red, and I'm going to paint the marker for the cylinders 1 to 4 and 5 to 8. I'm going to mark that up on the flywheel nice and clear, so when you look in through the top to do the timing for cam belts, etc., then it will be a lot easier. There we go. That's the last one out. Flywheel looks pretty good to me, to be honest. I mean, it's not got loads of heat cracks on it or anything like that. It's got some kind of like lots and lots of little high points, but you'd expect that. Now, was the rear oil seal leaking? No, it doesn't look like it was. In fact, it looks fairly new. What do you do? Do you replace it or don't you? That's the big question, isn't it? How long's it been on there? How good does it look? Do you replace it? Well, you know, for 13 quid, sort of, I'm tempted just to say, let's just whip it out, put another one in. I think I'm just going to do that anyway, but it does look very good, actually. I mean, that really does look very good. It's a nice big seal over there, and it's so easy to get to. And I know I make that sort of, but it is quite easy to get to. I think I'm going to leave it, you know. There's this thing of disturbing things. I just think I'm going to leave it and not disturb it, because it really does look very good. I was talking about the holes being eccentric on the flywheel and the crank, in order that you get it on in the right orientation. Look, that's interesting. So you see, this will illustrate that. When they're in that position, they're lined up perfectly, but if you go round one lot, they don't line up. I mean, it's hard to see that from here, but so this is just to demonstrate the eccentric nature of these holes, to stop you getting the flywheel in the wrong orientation relative to the crank. As you can see, that fits, but when you move it round one, in other words, if you get it out of line, then look, it doesn't line up. I don't know if you can see that, but those holes line up and they start to go out of line, and if you go around again, it's out of line again. You see, these line up around there, but they're out of line here, and if you go around again, there you go, they're out of line over here, and so on. So you can see that they are designed. There you go, these are out of line, they're in line. So you can see that's the whole idea, is to make sure you get the right orientation. So just bear that in mind. And obviously when you put this on, the flywheel, you need to get that right, otherwise you'll be juggling around all over the place. So find the right orientation and then mark it, is my advice, before you then try and put it on the car itself, otherwise you'll be having loads of fun. There you go, that's it there. So I'll just mark it, and then I know that that's right, and then I've just got to worry about it relative to the crank. The other thing I'm quite pleased about is there's no cracking on here at all. It's in really nice condition, actually. I'm very pleased about that. So just a light cleaning up and everything like that. I know you've got all these marks, they look worse than they are. There's nothing there to worry about. There's no cracking or anything like that. So I don't think this car's really had any grief, actually. I thought it might have done because of the clutch, breaking up like that, but I think that's just age. On seeing this initially, I thought that perhaps there was a leak from the engine oil seal at the rear because of all this oil around here. I'd say that's probably from a leak, an old leak, and the oil seal's been replaced, but no one's actually bothered to clean the bell housing. So garages and things like that, they can't be bothered with stuff like this, so they just part swap and that's it, because they're against the time schedule, whereas people like us, we've got plenty of time. We can just wash all that off nicely and make that look nice. So there you go, that's what it looks like at the moment, and I shall clean it all up and try and make a bit of a better job of it than that. And there's the rear of it with our familiar cascade of cogs. So yes, and there's the our actuator arm here that we're all familiar with, which, as you see, when you move the actuator arm, it presses the thrust bearing in here. So I'm going to basically remove the clip. He says, where is the clip on that? Surely that's okay. So maybe this is an early one, it doesn't have a clip, but I would have thought that there was some kind of a clip there, but it doesn't seem to be one. Okay, well that's something worth looking at as well. There's some kind of a spring clip on here. Obviously this is the bearing lives inside there, so yeah, we've got to press that out, press out the centre and clean it all up. It actually feels okay, but I've got a new one anyway. So remembering what I said about it's not what you do, it's how you do it, I'm just going to give this a light clean off with this little sanding disc, very gently. As you can see, it's hardly touching the surface, it's just the lightest of I should go around that with a wire brush later. It's almost like a honing, really. It's hardly anything else. Call it personal preference. I know people that have had, their brake discs skimmed and flywheels skimmed, and when you take away material, you remove its ability to heat sink, and when you do that, of course, then you start to get cracking and warping and distortion. So I don't like skimming things. If it don't have to be done, I don't want to do it. I'd much rather do this. I can see if there's any cracks there. I can't see any cracks there at all, and it's just a much nicer way of doing it. I think with some people it's almost an automatic thing. They feel as though they take a head off, they have to skim it, they take a flywheel off, they have to skim it, and every time you do that you take away metal. If you kept skimming your head every time you took it off, after 30 years you need a new head. So I don't like doing it. Or some people call it a skim. Some reface is the other thing. I mean, reface is less than a skim. Obviously, a skim, sometimes you skim ahead to up the compression ratio. But even refacing, it depends who's on the machine, doesn't it? Supposing they take off too much, If you're interested to know what grade it is, I'd say this is about a 40 grade, so it's, if you can see that, it's quite coarse, but I'm not putting much pressure on it. So the latest thing is cleaned up the bell housing a bit, and I will try and get it better than this, but first thing I've found is, obviously as you clean it up, sometimes you wash muck into the bearings. I had a feeling I might end up doing that to this one, and that's exactly what's happened. One of the things I found, I'll show that in a minute, one of the things I found though is that this nut here is loose. And I don't know if you can hear it, hold on a second. There you go. So that's not too clever. The other thing, if I turn it over, you can see it's a lot cleaner than it was now. I don't have a parts washer, I just put it in a container and just scrubbed away at it. So if you listen to this, you'll hear I've washed some grime into this bearing. If you listen. Now that wasn't like that. All that's happened is grime has gone into there. I tried my best not to let any go in there, but there's also a hole here. So I'm just going to take this faceplate off. And as you can see, because the nut on the other side is loose anyway, I figured that I might as well take that apart, investigate that bearing, because all the power from the engine goes into that. So and what it does is it goes into that gear, and then it goes into that gear, down the cascade and into the drive into the gearbox. So it basically, the clutch transmits all the power into there, into that gear, straight into the gearbox. And that's how Ferrari do it. So the next thing is to take that faceplate off on the other side and just see if I can get to the bearing. But in any case, I've got to torque up the nut from the other side. Okay, just remove that. Just have to line that up. There's a seal in there, I expect. That would be silicone around there. And there's a seal. Some debris in the back of the seal there. That seal feels really old, so I'm going to replace that because I doubt it's ever been done. So new seal in there, and I can flush that bearing out. There's no play in that bearing at all, as you'd expect, and I'm sure when it's flushed out it'll be absolutely fine. It's got bits of silicone in there and stuff like that. So yes, I shall flush that out. And the other thing I shall do is, like I say, torque that nut up on the other side, which is this one here. So I've just got to find out how many pounds of torque go into there, which means I've got to get another one of these nuts because this one is spent. And now on final inspection, another thing I've noticed is that the oil journal here, which basically runs through here, and then it feeds the seal and the bearing and then comes out of there, is partially blocked with a great big daub of silicone that someone's put in there. So I'm going to have to clear that out as well. So not very clever. It's amazing what you actually find when you start digging around on a car this old. You know, people that have been in there and done their own interpretation of maintenance. Just for our amusement, I thought I'd try and push this lump of silicon out. I found the oil way, so I'm just using this piece of tube. I'll see if I can get it on camera. Let's see what it turns up. There you go. Got it. Not a swine. Oh, lovely. Oh, look at that. It looks like a rock. It's actually a piece of silicon. But look at that. Look at the size of that. There. Nice. You don't want that in your main engine bearing, really, do you? That's the kind of thing that knocks bearings out.